Hi, it's Nicole Banks with Nicole's Business Notebook, where I'm bringing together my business besties from the greater Phoenix Valley and beyond so that we can learn what they're doing, what 2026 looks like, and how we can all do better business together. I am joined in the studio this week by Debra Lee Murrow. Deborah, thank you so much for being on the show today.
You're welcome.
Awesome. All right, so you guys can see these beautiful pieces of art here next to me. Deborah is an artist and has a really unique way of going through her projects, her art projects, and even working with some live painting and artwork that she does. So we're going to go into all the things about Deborah and what she's doing. So let's first start. I know you have a penchant for this, but when do you say that your artistic vibes started?
Oh, good question. So, yes, so kind of all of my life, right? You have a bent to it, but I'm also go, 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 go. So it wasn't something that I was thinking of having a career in. So this particular style was brought to me in my late 20s through a spiritual, I guess you could say a spiritual journey, but I had no intention of going on a spiritual journey to begin with. Very fun.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So let's talk origin story.
Mhm.
You mentioned that art wasn't something that you've started, and you obviously have worked other jobs. So let's start there. What did kind of the history of Deborah?
Okay, all right. I grew up in New Jersey and very active in sports, always doing art on the side. And then my went to college, got a minor in art, but it wasn't. It was just for fun. Always doing art on the side. Got a degree in geography.
Oh wow.
with the intention of travel tourism. I wanted to go,
Mm.
go, go, wanted to do tours, that sort of thing. So I did end up in Pan Am for a year. I know, dating myself way back at the airport, and that was fun until they decided to do forced overtime. So I'm like,
Oh.
yeah, not for me. So without any real concrete goals, I just flipped from job to job in my 20s. Customer service, and then I ended up in sales, which was like, that really spoke to me because it was freedom. I was walking around, I was meeting people, I was meeting clients, and it was a lot of fun. And then at that point, always kind of getting to the top of everything within 3 to 4 years. Like, okay, did this, now what? So then I decided to say, okay, what next? So I did a lot of reading, and I did the tape a day for 30 days with Tony Robbins, and that was just
Mm.
fabulous. And it was just a little bit each day that you went on. And what really spoke to me was I wanted to I was always struggling with finding really good cards with really good quotes. Either they had a
Mhm.
good picture um, or a good quote, and I couldn't find the both of them. So therein lies, I wrote down, my own card business, and fast forward, lots of stumbling, lots of falling. That's part of what I offer too is,
Amazing.
yeah, it's very funny. It's very funny.
That's great. Those
Yeah.
full circle moments that come through.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk about, kind of the job hopping.
Mhm.
Back in the day when we were young, you're supposed to work at the same place for 50 years with a smile on your face and a 401k or a pension. And obviously both you and I, did not really work into that sort of model. And there's been a lot of, job hopping. So for those that, still may be reticent or, believing that you need to stick in the same place, what can you tell them of the benefits of job hopping and, going through that process of working with multiple places, multiple people, multiple organizations?
Okay. Well, one thing about job hopping, because first of all, my dad was an entrepreneur. There was no like, you need to get a job and stay there. That wasn't preached to me. So the job hopping just came out of like, my spirit. It's like, "Ugh, I am so bored. I need to do something else." But let's look back at that because you can connect the dots backwards.
Mhm.
So let's say your job hopping is preparing you for all of the things that you're supposed to be doing. It's your training ground, I truly believe. So, in that, the sales, the last thing was just like, wow, this is great. And what I realized that I didn't realize, that I didn't really read, and then I started reading, and you got to know yourself. You start reading and you're like, oh, that's a gifting, that's a gifting, that's a gift. And I really love that. So then you can start really pursuing your plan. I believe God has a plan for everybody.
Mhm.
I grew up in church, but I didn't really follow it, or I fell asleep a lot, let's just say. But I do understand there's one that says, Jeremiah 29:11, that says, "For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans to prosper you and to not harm you, plans to give you hope in a future." And I was like, what's that all about? So I think that kind of seeking came to me. And that, all those job hops just really prepared me for what maybe was next.
I love that.
Yeah, it was good.
So, Tony Robbins has been integral in many lives, entrepreneurs, career people, really everybody in between. So,
Mhm.
you did this tape a day. At the end of it, you felt inspired. Some people may call that woo woo. Some people might realize that, that isn't possible. What would you tell them about your experience that may let them lean into a little bit more of, kind of that self introspection?
Yeah, that's wonderful. Really, all those 30 days were questions back to me. He wasn't telling me to do anything. He was just explaining kind of life and stuff, and the questions came out of me, and I wrote down what would be one thing, three things that I'd want to do, that I've been procrastinating on. And when you understand procrastinating and why you're procrastinating, you snap and you're like, oh, that's why. So
Mhm.
really at the end of those 30 days, I was still like unsure. I was still in that sales job. I had uh, made a few changes in my life. And I kept saying to and fro work, I don't know what I want. I don't know what I want. I don't. And then one day I was like, geez, I'm telling myself I don't know what I want. Like,
Mm.
that's kind of crazy. So within 24 hours, I kid you not, I started saying, I know what I want. And I would just leave it alone. I know what I want. I know what I want. And right then and there, I was walking into work, and the light dawns, and I'm like, I want to go to New York City. I was in Massachusetts. I grew up in New Jersey. I'm like, and I love New York. Let's just do it. So I walked right into work and I said, I'm giving my notice.
Wow.
So you got to tell life, your life is voice activated. Ask yourself good questions and you'll get good answers.
I love that.
Mhm.
You get when you put in,
Mhm.
and whether you're religious or not, there's a lot of, points of prayer and, manifesting and meditating, and
Mhm.
all of these things are, basically putting into your life what you're hoping to get out of it. And I think, you know, many people don't go, kind of both feet in like you did to go to New York City, but I do think that, what the words that you use have power, and I think that that's a great reminder.
That's right.
So, I mean, let's see how the story goes. You went to New York City. What happened?
Yes. So I crawl into this 2x4 in the East Village, and literally it was tiny, but I
Wow.
fit. And I explored the arts. So I wasn't doing my fine art then, but I
Mhm.
explored the arts. I went, I did a voice lesson. I went on calls for acting, singing calls. I remember learning a Carol Crow song.
Mm.
And what else did I do? I just followed the leading, right? I was like, what do I want to do today? And I did all service industry. I was so thankful to get out of a job where you had carried over to the next day. So I sat in a bank and I welcomed people in. I did bartending, I did waitressing. I just did all these service because I got home to read, to write, to exercise. And that's really all I did for those couple of years.
Wow.
Until I read so much that I had, literally, I feel like it was the revelation of the power of words because I was journaling.
Yep.
I did the Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. Love that book. But she encouraged us to do morning pages. So I would just more journaling gratitude. And while I was doing that, things were showing up. I remember this one day I had to, I was running. I was looking for something. I wrote down, I need to see so and so that morning. So what I did, I was delayed getting out of my apartment. That's key. I was looking for my wallet. I looked under the bed. It's not there. I looked around. I look under the bed. It's there. I'm like,
Hmm.
how did that happen?
Yep.
So I ran down the stairs on the second floor. I ran out into the street on First Avenue and literally ran into her.
Mm.
Like, I just wrote down, I need to see you. And it really just kind of stopped me in my tracks. I'm like, it's not, nothing's by accident here. What's happening? So that really sparked the art then.
I love that.
Yeah.
Serendipity is a powerful thing.
Yep.
So I think that that's great. So, you put in the work, you try all these different art, forms out, voice art, and that whole thing.
Mhm.
Your art is really distinctive. So where did that transition from that happenstance meeting go to the style that you then later developed?
Great question. So I ran into this beautiful brush, which I still use today. It's a Japanese calligraphy pen brush, and it's got the most amazing tip on it, and the ink is in the body.
Mm,
And I didn't know what to do. So I just got creating. And the very first piece I did was I am healthy, healed, happy, and blessed. It was straight down the paper. It's about a 16 by 20. And it really took me about a month to do. I
wow.
was just what I teach now is advanced doodling. I was just doodling around it, no real direction, just having fun. And that was my very first piece. At the same time, I was doing cards. So I would do Nicole is love on a little like
Mhm,
6 by 8 card. And I did my friend Karen. She colored it. I was like, fantastic. I'll coin the word color me. And at
mhm,
that point, my company was called Life is But a Dream.
mm,
But that changed throughout because not everybody's life is but a dream.
indeed.
Yeah.
Wow,
So
I think that that's great. And the tools that we use, the inspiration that comes to us, I think is really important, especially
yeah.
in art, but in all forms. I think that not everybody is open to that. And so I, congratulate you for kind of leaning into that and,
Mhm.
finding those opportunities. So, you're developing your style, and you're making these transitions in business. How is it being a creative business owner rather than kind of a quote unquote like service based or more traditional business owner?
Well, uh, when I work with corporations, there is a lot of design element. Like my newest project right now is interview with the CEO, a living legacy.
Mhm,
So I'm interviewing them and pulling things out of their life and creating a story on a piece of paper.
mhm,
It's probably an 18 by 24 in size, and it's just fantastic. So the design element involved being a creative is so much fun to work with. So then that piece becomes a living legacy for their employees. And then I go in and we have a coloring extravaganza. I teach people the basic of coloring outside the lines because if you get them to do that, and but honestly, some people can't do that. It allows them to have like this experience of permission because
mhm,
so many times I have to listen to story upon story about they were kindergarten and they got in trouble for coloring outside the lines. They were told they did art the wrong way. And
mhm.
so I'm like, oh my gosh, we have to
Yeah.
release that.
Yeah, I unfortunately have one of those stories.
Hmm.
I my mom was a horse lady, and she, did barrel racing and the whole bit, and I was kind of a nerd that didn't really have a lot of friends. So I went to like how to draw books in the library
Yeah.
and found a horse. And I mean, I didn't trace it. I did, kind of side by side, went through, worked on it for like 3 months. I was, again, like I didn't have anything else to do. And then I gave it to my mom, and then my dad says, "Well, of course you traced that." And I'm like, "Oh no, I've been working on this for months. You can ask the librarian, blah blah blah. Nicole, it's too good. There's no way you did it. You're 7 years old. You know."
Oh.
And it thwarted me. It was kind of like a brick to the gut. And for me, as you mentioned, it did something to me, and not until I was probably 32 or 33, my sister did a paint class, a sip and paint for my birthday.
Mhm.
And I went and, I did do it in pencil, that, picture back in the day. And, I did acrylic paint, and turned out I'm an artist. And, I now have 50 different paintings on my wall that I've done over the years, and, kind of leaned into that. But I 100% understand what you're talking about, retraining, and, how those small, comments and suggestions and critiques can really impact,
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, I have one of those stories too.
Yeah, I get it. But you were invited somewhere and you were able to break through it.
Mhm.
Some people might not have even gone to that paint class.
Yeah.
So I commend you for doing that.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
So when we first met, it was at a Women's 360 event,
Mhm.
and you came up as a speaker and you chronicled the event on canvas as we were talking and learning, and that whole bit. You were, kind of going through and with the whirling dervish and doing all of your stuff.
Yeah.
That's obviously really unique. What made you want to start doing that sort of art?
Well, first of all, it's a whole industry, graphic
Mm.
recording, visual note taking. I backed into that. So my style of doing the pen and ink,
Mm-hmm.
I would be sitting in my chair. Well, let me back up a little bit more. I would be in conferences and I would just fall asleep. And the only thing that would keep me awake is note taking. So this note taking I did at that time was linear. And so I would do it in gratitude. And every time I heard the speaker say something, I would write that down. And then as I got more and more into my art, I'd be sitting in conferences and I'd have a blank piece and I would just be doing this day after day in
Mm-hmm.
my seat. And then I realized, oh my, what I'm doing on my seat, I could be up to the stage
Mm-hmm.
doing and that as people were doing that. So I really didn't even realize the industry existed. Normally they do it in Sharpie
Mm-hmm.
and they do the whole conference visually.
Mm-hmm.
And so mine being just black and white, it's more of a gift and it's more of an art piece back to the attendees. So you will be able to color the piece after I'm done. It's digitally delivered to everyone, and the main ideas and concepts are there. It's not as detailed as the other ones, but
Mm-hmm.
you can put your own notes in there. And when you relive a conference, you start to remember. Like conferences, God bless them. They spend a year plus doing these conferences and then blink, the job's done.
Mm-hmm.
And the notes go on the shelf. Nothing is there as a takeaway.
Right.
But I got hired 2 years after I did one of these. It was at a retreat and I was doing my thing. And this lady called me. She goes, I was at that retreat and I stare at your art every single day for 2 years. And now I have a conference and I want you there.
Amazing.
So that was really fun. It was kind of like my own little advertisement for that.
Yeah, love that full circle moment.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you and I both attended the Empower and Elevate conference recently.
Yep.
An amazing conference put on by now Catherine Pierce, previously Colleen Biggs.
Yep.
And I know that you created something from there. So, can
Yeah.
you share that with us and talk about that process?
Yes, yes. So I do have it here. This piece started in a black and white,
Mm-hmm.
and it says relationships, I'm going the wrong way, builds businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So as we were there, this piece slowly got created on by everybody. So
Mm-hmm.
everybody's hand energy is in this piece and I
Mm-hmm.
just love it. So I get to finish it out and then we auction it off at the end. And one lucky winner, this is one lucky winner. So I
Mm-hmm.
still have to seal it. This was done in some oil pastels. Usually
Mm-hmm.
I use oil paint sticks. So yeah, they're just wonderful. Now, prior to me doing this, I also digitized it. So the black and white
Mm-hmm.
is available for
Yep.
people still to download and color and kind of think about how you're building relationships and how it's bettering your business. So it helps you add mindfulness into your day.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we go and never take a break. My art gives people an art break.
Mm-hmm.
And it also helps the mind just chill out. They say take a couple deep breaths. Some people don't want to do that, but and some people can't meditate, but they can maybe meditate in color.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a pretty interesting, thing about my art.
Yeah, I love that. My little orange heart that I did is in the top. So I was like, oh, yeah, that's me. So
Nice.
I
Oh, so
love
you
that.
remembered.
Yes.
So there you go. You remembered what piece you did. And that's
Yep.
the other thing. I was just at a retirement home. And so this very first guy, he didn't even ask me. Um, you know, he didn't say, Howard, can I do what I want? I was like, absolutely. So right in the center, he puts his cute little flower.
Mm-hmm.
And so I honor that. And I try to keep people's pieces
Mm-hmm.
that they do. And I did. I kept that. And he was like so excited to see it at the end. It was fun.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that it's a piece that, is a moment in time.
Yes.
The people that were at the, Empower and Elevate conference, we were all coming there from all over the United States.
Right.
There were some international people there too.
Yeah.
And so, this moment frozen in time. And I love that you talked about kind of the color and meditation. There's different memory triggers that we have
Exactly.
that can help us to make those connections, color coding your notes, for those that are in university. And so I love that this was kind of a physical, colorful way to help us to memorialize our time that we spent together, what we learned, what we shared, and
Yeah.
the relationships that we built. So I think that's really powerful.
Yes. Super cool. Yay, yay.
So you have another piece there.
Yes.
So let's talk about that and how it's another instance of you bringing together people's
Ah.
individual contributions for a larger piece.
Yes, lovely. So the piece that's actually on your desk too, when is it the stop sign piece?
Oh, yes.
Yes, that is a small prototype of this bigger piece.
Oh, amazing.
So, let's go. There we can see the top.
Yeah.
So it literally it's a 4-foot booth.
Yeah, it's big.
And so these pieces, let me come back to the microphone. These pieces that are on there, I'll just this way. So they are quite literally a blast from the past. So it's called shrink plastic. If anybody's ever done these as a kid, I did not find this until I was an adult and I was able to put it into my art line. So these are standalone pieces. As you can see, I'm wearing a necklace, but it came to me that, wow, this could be a super wonderful large scale community event. So I've done 3 of these so far. 2 are in the workings. One is for Scottsdale Arts and SUSD. I'm doing a 10-foot one for their entrances into their district office.
Oh, wow.
So all the school got together and everybody created a piece. And then what happens is they put it on this boot, and that piece is metal.
Mm.
And people will come back and I did that one. I did that one. I did that one. And during this event, people come over. I get grandmothers and grandfathers who are like, oh no, I'm okay. I was like, oh no, you're not okay. I really need your help.
Yeah.
And when I say I need your help, they're like, oh, they feel useful. So they're like, okay. I'm like, really? You can color the whole thing one color.
Yep.
It's a small piece, but they don't. They get creative
Mm-hmm.
and they feel good, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had these 2 moms. They came over with their kids and they're literally standing at the table, standing and putting color on this piece of plastic. And I simply walk over and I say, ladies, have a seat. And the one girl stopped. She looked at me. She was almost started crying. She gave me a big hug and she goes, I needed this so much this week. I've had a bad week. I'm like, well, great. Do another, and do another.
Yeah.
Look, I have to fill this whole thing out. So it really, I don't think we do community art enough or art in general. And if I can get these, my goal is 1 in every state. So
Lovely.
yes. So if I can get these out there and not to put in a building, mind you, in the outside, because it's done on metal, it's plastic and covered with resin, people will like inquire and maybe they'll do it because it is super simple. I've just upped the game.
Right. No, I love that.
Yeah.
And I think that that's one thing that's really, kind of clear from you and kind of your way of doing things is it's inclusive. It's about bringing community together. I love that you have this goal of, doing 1 in every state. I think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So, you're doing the conferences, you're doing these community projects. What don't you do? And what are you inspired to do for 2026?
Well, like I said, this CEO Living Legacy is a brand new one. I'm doing my first one, and I'm super excited. It's for a CEO of a bank, and yes, they color.
Yeah.
But let me backtrack. A really great friend of mine, which I will refer you to her.
Yes.
She, Teresa, she does yoga with them,
Oh, wow.
and I graphic recorded for her talk, and
Interesting.
she bought a piece from me, reproduced it, and then she gave it out during Christmas and to the bank, and they all colored it. I'm like, you got a bank to color my art? This is so cool. So then I said, do you think he would talk to me about this other project? And he was way open. He's had he had some a tragedy happen and had a mental health crisis, and he was like, yeah, let's do it, because he knows how important the arts are. and mindfulness and healing for not just him, but his whole staff. So I'm loving this.
I love that.
Yeah,
That is
yeah.
amazing.
Yep, yep.
And I do think that, the way that you come about it and the way that you are collaborating, is really important and a breath of fresh air, frankly.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, how does somebody work with you if there's a CEO listening and they're like, I want to be her next person? How do they get in touch with you?
Sure, absolutely. So it's colormeartspa.com. Color me, Debra Lee at Insta, or you can find me on Facebook. Color Me Art Spa business page, Debra Lee Murrow on Facebook. So yeah, my numbers are out there. Reach out to me. I would love to do a living legacy piece and inspire your staff. One thing I will say is I didn't really realize this whole thing until I really got serious about my values. So I
Mm,
bring staff company wide in a project of on shrink plastic, and
mhm.
everybody does a goal setting values piece.
Wow.
And that makes sure people are in alignment with who they are, what they are, and where they're going. So
Yep.
this, I have my 5 words like in my office, and I keep looking at it, love, community. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's happening.
Yeah.
When you have it in front of your face,
Right.
it's important. Yeah.
Yeah, I think those are the great reminders.
Mhm.
Values are incredibly important. And, like just said, your kind of business and life kind of, went, into the stratosphere when you really aligned with that. It's the same thing for me. And
Yeah.
so for those that may not understand their values, take the time, read some books,
Yep.
do some introspection, figure out what those values are and lean into them as hard as you can.
Yep. Yep.
All right, Deborah. So the last question I want to ask you is a question I ask everyone. If you were a genie and could bippity boppity boop, and entrepreneurs could learn something from you instantly, what would it be?
Okay. So this is so important. Your life is voice activated. Let that sink in a minute. So, what you would do is make sure that your beautiful, happy, beautiful life is spoken out while you sleep in the morning, and it starts your day off, because we can be pulled in 1,000 different directions. But if you don't remember who you are, where you're going, and what you're going to do, you could just kind of tail off,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I help people put that into action. And specifically, I use the word of God to turn and make it personal, right? So I merge your life vision with the word, and now you're activating. It totally completes my morning. When I miss it, I'm like, darn, but now I don't miss it because
Right.
I've recorded it. So that's a thing. I help people physically record it. So if they're not having that day, they could just press a button and be energized by their own voice. I'm a very, very much a audio learner. So that was one of my missions.
Yeah.
my first mission to go down to New York City was, I'm going to be a voiceover artist.
Oh, interesting.
And I kind of do that for myself now.
That's great. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, definitely the transitions of life and where
Yep.
they bring us is always interesting.
Mhm.
Deborah, thank you so much for talking about authenticity
Yeah.
and leaning into being called and the beautiful things that can be created from our community. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. This is another episode of Nicole's Business Notebook, where I'm bringing together my business besties to show how we're better together, how community can thrive, and the amazing things that we have planned for 2026 and beyond. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.